Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to wait a few more minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll go ahead and get started and people can just continue to log in. My name is Juliana O'Rourke and I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications here at BBB serving Southern Piedmont and Western North Carolina. Even throughout these unprecedented times, we are continuing to serve the community and will be a vital asset in providing support and guidance. One of the ways we're offering support is by partnering with industry experts and hosting webinars such as this one that will focus on helping consumers and businesses get through this pandemic. These webinars are free for you as an accredited business, but because this topic we're focusing on today is so incredibly important, we have extended the invitation to our non-accredited businesses as a courtesy. A few housekeeping items before we go ahead and get started. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, but go ahead and feel free to submit your questions in the question box at any time. We will go ahead and make sure to answer those at the very end of the presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenter, Tom Bartholomew, President and CEO of the BBB serving Southern Piedmont and Western North Carolina. Tom has been the president and CEO of our BBB here for the last 19 years and has been with the BBB system for just under 40 years. Thanks so much for presenting today, Tom. Let's go ahead and get started.
Well, thanks, Juliana, and thanks for putting this together for us. We've been just inundated with information from businesses and consumers about how they're being contacted by scammers and basically asking us for information on how they can protect themselves, how they can tell the difference between what's real and what's somebody trying to rip you off. And with the question we've been getting a lot though recently is, well, why? Why are scammers so successful now with using COVID-19 as a hook? And it comes down to three things. Successful scams in recent years have had three primary components. One, that there's fear, obviously in place now, fear of losing your business, fear of losing your job, just fear of contracting the virus. Secondly, there's confusion. If anybody's dealt with the federal government the last several weeks on grants or loans knows that there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace about what the rules actually are, how do we engage, and how do we get what's becoming available. And third, and most interesting during this time, is scammers are able to take advantage of social isolation. In fact, the Better Business Bureau did a study last year, it was released in February of this year before this even came out, that one of the key components for a successful scam is when somebody is socially isolated. Well, we're all kind of socially isolated right now, which makes it just ripe pickings for the scammer. So let's get into what we're seeing right now at BBB, what types of scams are out there, and then how we can protect ourselves. So I'm sure we've all heard about the government relief checks and who's eligible and when's it showing up in my bank. But literally the day after President Trump announced that there was a possibility that there would be relief checks or stimulus checks, that the scammers jumped all over it. They were sending out emails and texts and phone calls. And phone calls would say that they were coming from the U.S. government, the caller ID. Well, anybody can make caller ID say whatever they want it to. I could make my caller ID say United States government if I wished. So don't be put off by that look of that being official, because if the federal government was calling everybody to announce this information and to walk you through the steps of getting your checking account loaded into the database, I mean, that's 80 million people. It's 80 million phone calls the government would have to be making. It's just not going to happen. The government's not emailing you, they're not phoning you, they're not texting you. The BBB has been getting a number of reports on our Scam Tracker, part of our website, about this. So if you receive an email, receive a text, and I'll be saying this throughout the presentation today, if there's a link embedded in that text or a link embedded in that email, don't click on it. Just hover over it. Hovering over it will expose what the web address really is. And so if they're saying that they're contacting you from the IRS, if you hover over it, it should say irs.gov. But these scammers, they don't go to that level to try to confuse people. They just have a code listed there, letters, numbers that don't mean anything except for what the web address is. So if that is just code when you hover over it, don't click on it. You're just going to be causing yourself more problems than what it's worth. Next slide. There we go. And so some tips on this, and probably the best tip on this is that if you have any questions at all, go to irs.gov. The rules have been changing on almost a daily basis as far as how the relief checks were going to be sent out. At first it was going to be checks sent out, then it was going to be direct deposit based on the information that they already had on file with you. BBB is receiving calls now from people that are expecting to receive checks saying that it actually went to their tax preparer, and that the tax preparer was going to be withholding some piece of that for processing this. So if you don't already have your information, your own personal banking information on file with the IRS, go to irs.gov. Here's the link right here on this slide, irs.gov/coronavirus/getmypayment. And they will walk you there through the steps of putting in your bank routing number, putting in your checking account information so that it can come directly to you. If you don't have any of that on file with them, you can go ahead and put it in there at that web address. If you don't want to provide that information, realize that a paper check is going to take longer to get to you. It could be even up to a month longer for that to come to you. But in the meantime, like I said, don't respond to the texts, emails, or phone calls, but because they're not coming from the IRS. We've been working with the North Carolina Attorney General quite extensively on price gouging. So if you experience anything at local stores or any place in North Carolina, physical location, please report it to the North Carolina Attorney General's office. If you see anything online, that's where the BBB has been seeing the most activity on price gouging, is through online sites. Please report it to us at bbb.org/scam tracker, and we can work with other states where these might be coming from, but unfortunately where we're seeing a lot of the price gouging complaints is from websites that are being propped up out of foreign countries, and there's very little that can be done to stop that, except for, of course, don't make any purchases through those types of websites. So again, North Carolina Attorney General's Office or bbb.org if you're experiencing any type of price gouging activity. And this one we just saw in the last couple of weeks. People are receiving texts and emails saying that now that COVID testing is available, that it's going to be mandatory and that we can offer you free COVID-19 tests. But then they ask for your personal information, ask for your credit card information. It's not real. There is no mandatory testing for COVID. It's difficult enough right now in the United States to even voluntarily get COVID testing. So just realize again that these are not coming from the United States government, not from any governmental agency. It's a scammer just trying to take advantage of you. One other tip on this is that usually at the bottom of these types of texts, they ask if you want this to stop or if you don't want to receive any of these type of texts in the future, to just type in stop or type in no. Don't do that. This is a scammer that's looking for ways to harvest your cell phone number or regular phone number as being a live phone number. And so they're just fishing basically for somebody that's going to respond, thinking that they're going to stop getting these in the future. It's just going to actually make you receive even more of these. And fraudulent health products and cures, phony cures that are we're seeing out in the market, primarily through websites, but we're also seeing it through social media that scammers are touting that the cure has been found. There's now a vaccine. Here's something that you can take that will help with the symptoms. And anything that is going to try to grab your attention. And what we refer to this as is clickbait. If you see something in social media, or if you see something in a news feed that says the cure has been found, that's clickbait. They're wanting you to click on that link to then go to their website. Sometimes it'll actually take you to a website that is going to just try to sell you products, services that are not needed, are overpriced, but it's all a ploy to get you to click on where they're wanting to take you. Can be their website, can also be just to install malware on your system. So again, if there's a cure out there, we're going to hear about it, but it's not going to be on your Facebook news feed. And these websites, they look very authentic. They might have brand names that you're familiar with, but they usually have testimonials or guarantees. Testimonials, they're easily made up. We're seeing a lot of celebrities that have been coming out saying that their likenesses have been stolen and that they're being used for testimonials for different things. And they're being taken advantage of as well by their good name being sullied by these types of scammers. So you have to be very careful on these, but the amount of phony websites that are being propped up that we've seen at BBB in just the last month has been overwhelming, and it's hard to sometimes tell the real from the fake. But again, go to brands and websites that you trust. If you have any questions, you can do a search of them at bbb.org, or you can just do a Google search of the web address, and it will identify if there's any bad actors that are associated with it. I mentioned malware, and this is primarily where that clickbait comes in again. That the key is don't get caught up in, oh my goodness, there's a cure that's been found, or I need to find out what this latest bit of news is on COVID-19. Again, don't click. Hover over it if you're the least bit interested in it. Just hover over it first. If it says that it's coming from CNN and you hover over it and it says CNN, it's probably going to be safe at that point. But in the all the ones that we've been seeing at BBB in the last month have been just scammers sending out these emails, sending out texts that once you click on it, it's going to install malware onto your device, basically shutting it down. Or even worse, it's going to put a bot into that device first, trying to extract personally identifying information, and then leave malware in its wake to shut it down after they've stolen your ID. So don't click on any of these attempts to steal your identity. And then we have, I mean, the scammers literally are trotting out every trick they have. And as Juliana mentioned, I've been with the BBB for almost 40 years, and everything that I've seen over that period of time is being brought out of the closet by scammers trying to take advantage of the situation. And unfortunately, it's working. But again, fake phone calls, I'd mentioned that don't believe the caller ID. Realize that Medicare, Medicaid, the IRS, any government agency, CDC, Small Business Administration, they're not making phone calls. They're not trying to call you. If anybody that is calling you is asking for payment by prepaid debit card or even with a credit card, be very, very suspicious. Same thing with emails. We're now seeing emails that are asking for charitable donations. And yes, there are very worthy charities that are involved in this across the United States, across the world. But you can find them not through an email because they're not taking the time to send out emails soliciting contributions. They're hard at work trying to get the job done. So if you see something in the news of an organization that you want to support, go to give.org, go directly to that organization's website, and you can feel much more comfortable, much more confident that the contribution you make is going to have the impact that you're hoping it's going to have. Robocalls, we're seeing this now. Robocalls are illegal. And so if you are receiving them, report them to the FTC, report them to BBB Scam Tracker. It's easy sometimes for people to say, well, just don't answer it. But if you're a small business person, I mean, that's your business phone. And it's hard to say, well, I don't recognize this number, so I'm not going to answer it. Well, small business owners, they're going to say, yes, I'm going to answer it because that's a potential customer. But just beware that it's somebody that could be trying to harvest your phone number as being a live phone number and being able to sell that at a premium then on the black market. But basically, realize that the scammers are using all of these means of fake phone calls, robocalls, phishing emails, phony text messages, trying to get in front of you and steal your identity. And then Zoom bombing. This was, I had never used Zoom before, but I've been a quite regular user of it in the last month for meetings with staff, for news media interviews. That it's a great service, works really, really well, but there are some security gaps in there that if you don't use the proper setup when you're doing a Zoom meeting, that it could be bombed, that a hacker can get into your meeting, get into your call, and usually they're just trying to disrupt it. It's nothing that they're trying to steal anything, that's just disrupting whatever you're trying to get accomplished. So if you're using Zoom and you're going to set up a meeting or going to set up any type of face-to-face activity through that service, there's a section, embed password in meeting link. Please enable that. By enabling that, that will prevent any bad actors out there from bombing your conference call. We also have more information on this. We've established a new website, especially for small businesses, at bbb.org/smallbusiness. You can find out about this and other things directly impacting the small business community at that website. And now with the Small Business Administration. If any of you were on our call recently with the Small Business Administration about grants and relief checks and the PPP, uh, uh, service that's out there now, the scammers are taking advantage of that as well. And again, it's using that fear as motivator. I don't want to lose my business. I don't want to have to lay off my employees. Confusion about it because of, well, what are the rules? What's the SBA going to do? Do I go to my local bank? Do I go directly through the SBA.gov? There was so much confusion going on around everything about the Small Business Administration that it was ripe pickings for the scammers to come in and try to take advantage. And again, they're making phone calls. The caller ID says Small Business Administration. We've covered that already. That don't believe it. Small Business Administration is not making any phone calls. Don't believe social media feeds. If a friend reaches out to you on social media and says, "Hey, I just got my loan, I just got my grant, and here you can as well." Uh, Again, that's not a friend of yours. That's not somebody that's trying to share some important information with you. That's somebody that has had their social media account compromised, and anybody that is a friend or connected to that social media account is going to be receiving that same type of friend reaching out to say, "Hey, this is how I was able to get my loan, to get my grant." The main tell on this, if you're getting into applying for a loan or applying for a grant, there is no processing fee. So if anybody is claiming that you have to pay anything up front to get this loan or to get that grant, it is a scam. And that's your tell that you're in the wrong place and you need to get back over to your local bank or to the SBA.gov website. And some tips on this, again, if it doesn't say SBA.gov, it's not the real website. You can, again, do a search for that web address to see where it would really be taking you to. But again, they're not making phone calls. They're not making text messages go out. They're not sending emails. They're not posting anything on social media. It's the place to get the direct story, the direct information on how to apply, SBA.gov or your local banker. Investment scams, these get trotted out in times of any crisis, and we're seeing it now. I mean, when the stock market tanked a few weeks ago, and people were saying, "Well, hey, actually, this is a good time to buy." That's when the investment scams are active, and again, they're using the same means of robocalls, phone calls with phony caller ID, text messages, and scams. If you're not already set up with a financial advisor or with an investment advisor, look through bbb.org first. Talk to your friends about who they use, but don't get caught up in somebody that's guaranteeing an investment return in these volatile times. There's no such thing as a guarantee when it comes to investing in the market. So be very suspicious of those. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Working from home. It's become a common occurrence here at the Better Business Bureau, and I'm sure with most every business, non-essential business that's out there right now. And scammers are trying to take advantage of that as well. People that are unfamiliar, we've got 27 people with BBB, and all of us are learning to work from home. And it's a whole new level of security that if you're in the office and you're using the systems there, yeah, there's firewall protection, there's security software. But when you're trying to connect to that network through your own laptop or through your own PC, you have to make sure that those same protections are on your personal devices that you have at home. We're also seeing a surge in what we call the Microsoft scam of people receiving phone calls. The caller ID says that it's coming from Microsoft. The caller identifies themselves as calling from Microsoft and wanting to help take a virus out of your system. They want control over your device, over your PC, over your laptop. And if you give that control to them. It may look like they're actually doing something to them, of putting a patch in there to fix whatever needs to be fixed, but they're actually behind the scenes there, digging through your system, digging through your database, trying to find personally identifying information, extract that, and then shut your system down when they're done stealing your identity. So if you have any questions about your own security setup at home, plenty of resources that you can turn to on making sure that the firewalls and security software is current and active. If you don't, you're exposing yourself to quite the risk. And then business email compromise. This wasn't even on our radar a year or so ago, and we've seen a surge within the last year and some more recent activity because of COVID as well, because again, everybody's working from home. They are able to compromise an individual's email that's within your organization and basically pose as that person, usually the boss, and asking you to make a wire transfer of a large sum of money, something that may be a common occurrence in your operation, but don't believe it. If it's only coming to you as an email with directions from your boss to be doing this, you've got to verify it. Call your boss directly or email them separately. Don't hit reply if it's coming to you in an email. Making that extra step, that phone call, and if the email has a phone number there for you to call, realize that there is voice cloning software out there now that can make it very easy for them to impersonate someone else's voice. So don't use it, don't reply to the email, don't dial the phone number that they may be offering you there that say, hey, since I'm working from home now, call me at this number. Don't believe it. The email's been compromised. You need to take further steps to verify that it's actually somebody from your organization that's asking you to do this type of activity. I touched on charities and donation requests. Where you really need to be cautious is if you're, again, getting emails requesting that you make a donation. It may look like the American Red Cross. It may look like the Salvation Army, but they're not actively doing any soliciting via email. So again, don't click on those links. Where we're really seeing some unfortunate activity is around GoFundMe and other crowd sharing accounts or websites that are out there in the United States now. Unless you know and can verify the person that's requesting money from you in a GoFundMe, and that you know that it's legitimate, if you know the person and you know their situation and you know it to be true, then yes, you can have that level of confidence. But if it's somebody that you have no direct connection with and they're making an appeal on GoFundMe, you have to be very suspicious. If you want to be making a difference, stick with known charities that you know are boots on the ground trying to help people through this crisis. And you can check those at give.org. It's the BBB's Wise Giving Alliance. And there's a whole list of relief organizations right there that have been vetted and that you can trust with your contribution. BBB's been getting a lot of calls recently about canceled events from airlines. Your flight's been canceled or you want to cancel your flight, hotels, Airbnb, VRBO, concerts that have been canceled. That review the venue's cancellation policy. Those are the rules that you need to follow. The law requires that these types of companies, for ticket brokers and others, have refund and exchange policies, but it can be whatever they want it to be. So you are bound at that point to follow those terms for cancellation. If you paid with a credit card, that offers you another level of protection. But ticket insurance or travel insurance, those can be helpful as well, but there can be exclusions in those. So become familiar with those, and but contacting the vendor directly and be persistent but be patient. Realize that there are a lot of people out there right now that are requesting refunds for events or trips that are being canceled. So, some positive news. How can we actually support small businesses during this time? Uh, don't take the refund if you're returning some merchandise or returning anything. Take a rain check, buy a gift card, make a commitment to working with them in the future. Shop local. Uh, that's a real key of supporting people across the southern Piedmont and western North Carolina right now that we're being seriously impacted economically by COVID, and by supporting local merchants, local restaurants that are offering takeout or delivery. That's a really good way to be involved in your community and support your community. And at the very least, write a review, positive review at bbb.org, or share who your favorite small business is, even if it's yourself. Feel free to share that on social media. Let people know that you're open for business. We've got means that you can do that through BBB with a special program right now. You can find out more about that at our website at bbb.org/Charlotte, of how you can let local people know that you're open for business and that you like to have their business. If you've seen anything that appears scam related, this is a picture of the hotspots on bbb.org/scam tracker. Please report it there. Even if you're not a victim, please report it. We share this information with media. We share it with the Federal Trade Commission, with the attorneys generals across the United States. That it's a great way to do just that. Track scams, track how the scammer's operating, see if there's any way that we can undermine what they're trying to do, and possibly get them shut down, their websites or their business in total. And speaking of open for business, the BBB is, even though I said almost all of our staff is working remotely now, we're answering the phones, we're responding to emails, we're handling complaints and customer reviews. Everything that we did a month ago, we're doing now. And we're getting more and more comfortable with this remote environment. But if you have any difficulty at all reaching us via email, phone, or live chat, just let us know. One of the last slides coming up is my direct contact information as well as Juliana's. Do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions about anything related to the Better Business Bureau during this time. Quite a few resources and links that are available. Again, these are all available through our website. Great information, as I mentioned before, for small business people at bbb.org/small-business, and then information on all the scams that we talked about today, as well as others that are developing at bbb.org/coronavirus. Some additional resources for business owners, for businesses in general, and then national resources that you can sort by state if you have other locations in other parts of the United States, that you can see what resources are available there through bbb.org as well. There's my contact information as well as Juliana's, and we'll be happy to take and answer any questions that anybody might have at this point.
All right, so it looks like the only question we have right now is if the presentation slides will be made available. And yes, we are recording the webinar, so this will be emailed out. I anticipate emailing it out tomorrow to everyone, so you should have it in your inbox tomorrow. Anybody else has any questions, if you want to go ahead and submit those in the next few minutes, we will answer them. Otherwise, we will finish up early and give you some of your day back.
this is our second webinar that we've presented. We will be presenting more as the crisis continues. We're already working up some additional topics. Probably be offering one or so per week on things that we see that are impacting our communities and ways that we can feel you can benefit by getting this information out in front of you as well.
So it doesn't look like there are any additional questions, so we will go ahead and wrap it up. But like I said, we will go ahead and email this out to everybody. So we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for attending.